It's a beautiful Saturday morning as the Illinois Railway Museum, located in the small town of Union, prepares itself for a busy Memorial Day weekend. Though the platforms look completely deserted, it will soon be bustling with life as visitors, ranging from families to rail fans, will arrive for a train ride through the Illinois countryside. Many are hoping for a ride behind an old steam locomotive. A steam locomotive, ready to go after nearly 10 years of absence, with full steam ahead. Built by the Baldwin Locomotive Works in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, steam locomotive number 1630 rolled out of the factory in 1918, classified as a Russian decapod. With 2 pilot wheels and 10 drivers, each wheel being 52 inches in diameter, this locomotive first served the Pennsylvania Railroad before being sold to the St. Louis-San Francisco Railway, or popularly known as the Frisco. Throughout its career, the 1630 was assigned as a dual-service locomotive before it was retired and replaced by diesels in the 1950s. Fortunately, instead of finding itself in a scrapyard, it soon found itself at the Illinois Railway Museum, with a chance to be fired up once again.
And basically the first locomotive they rebuilt was the Russian decapod, the 1630. It took about 18,000 volunteer hours to get it back running. It hadn't run since 1957, and it came out here in 67, and they spent the time and they got it running in about 1971, late 71, and it's been running out here ever since, but there's been years when it didn't run for maintenance, and now it's running for the first time in 9 years because we are under federal inspection out at the Railway Museum as far as locomotives.
It's here in this small structure known as Bar 95 where the magic happens. Besides the 1630, the other steam locomotives that are selected for operation are stored, maintained, repaired, and restored. It's all possible by a group of dedicated volunteers who make up the museum's steam department.
The steam department started basically back in about 1969, 1970 by a fellow named Dave Conrad who volunteered out here, and at that time there were no departments. It was just you came out and whatever was being done that day, that's what you worked on, and they decided that they wanted to operate a steam locomotive out here and have a department. Before they had the Shea was the first locomotive to run out here, but it was done by volunteers and really wasn't in a department. So they created the steam department to make it happen, and then they built this building that we're in about 1971. They have a place to rebuild the locomotive.
This is certainly the case with the 1630. It took 9 years to perform the 15-year FRA inspection, along with other parts of the rebuild required to return the locomotive to operating condition.
And every 15 years, you're required to remove the boiler tubes from the locomotive, do an internal inspection to check out deterioration of the inside the boiler, and then do an ultrasonic test for thickness on the boiler shell. And then once that's completed and everything is found to be all right, or make the repairs, then it's time to put the boiler tubes back in it, which is a pretty good sized project. Put all new insulation on the outside. We had to paint all the, once you put the insulation on the boiler, then you take then there's sheet metal that covers the boiler up, and we had to clean all that up, and wire brush it, and prime it, and all the gauges were tested, all the stay bolts that are in there in the firebox were tested. A patch was put in the corner, the right front corner was got a boiler patch, firebox patch, and other odds and ends, things that needed studs. Some studs were broken that we had to replace, and whatever was necessary.
As the Frisco 1630 departs from the museum for its last run of the day, there seems to be this great feeling of pride and accomplishment within the department, as well as throughout the entire museum.
It's a good feeling, and you set yourself a goal, but it's not just me. I mean, there are a lot of people that put a lot of time in doing this, and I got to give them credit. I mean, I didn't do it on my own, and they should be proud of what they did. It's the only Russian decapod running in America, and it's a good locomotive. It served us well since 72 or 71 when they overhauled it, and we lucked out with the 1630.
Like most stories, as one chapter ends, another is set to begin. This is most apparent within the steam department, as the other locomotives will be next in line for major repairs.
Well, the 1630 is the main operating locomotive at the time, and it will probably be that for a couple of years until we can get the Shea and hopefully the 428 operating, and have 3 operating steam locomotives operating at one time. But it's a lot of work. A lot of work is yet to be done, and just getting them operating is one thing, but then it takes a lot to keep them operational, because it's all, again, done by volunteers, and people come, people go, and it's a constant training program.
Challenges will be faced, both known and unknown, but the steam department is more than willing to tackle them to keep the locomotives preserved and operational for many years to come. However, they can't do it alone. Like many other organizations throughout the country, the Illinois Railway Museum welcomes continuous support from the general public. So how can one show their support for the steam department, as well as the other departments throughout the museum?
Well, they can support the museum by donating to their favorite piece of equipment. If they got not to mention that they like diesels. We don't talk about diesels down here in the steam shop, but you can donate to diesels or electric cars or passenger cars and freight cars. Or you can either donate money to a specific piece of equipment, or if you feel you want to come out and work, we'd be glad to have you. And we got the work to do, and I hope that we can bring the right people in here to keep the program going.
For the full 2014 steam schedule, visit the Illinois Railway Museum's website at www.irm.org. You can also find more information about the steam department and how to support it by volunteering, along with your generous donations.